Hello everyone, this is the Birkeland Sport Report here, and today I'm giving a look at the Sweet 16 matchups. It's the second Thursday of the NCAA tournament, and if your bracket is not busted at this time, I offer you a sincere congratulations. One of the rules that I go by with my bracket is the 75% rule, so after each round you want to keep 75% of your teams alive within your bracket. Obviously, there's nothing you can do to control the madness that is March, and sometimes being reasonable is just not the solution this time of the year. So my bracket was doing well through Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday Villanova's loss to Wisconsin was kind of a precursor for everything that was about to happen later. So currently I'm sitting at 34 percentile in the ESPN Bracket Challenge, but two of my Final Four teams, Villanova and Louisville, have both been eliminated. Luckily for me, though, ESPN does have the Tournament Challenge Second Chance, and since this year I did not get to do a blogcast kind of with the entire bracket, I thought this would be a good time to make up for it with a breakdown of this year's Sweet 16. So we're going to start in the East region. Now, everybody at the start of the tournament had this pegged down as a matchup between Villanova and Duke in the Elite Eight at Madison Square Garden. However, neither of these teams are making it to the Sweet 16 this year, so we have Wisconsin, Florida, Baylor, and South Carolina meeting at Madison Square Garden. For Wisconsin versus Florida, Badgers advanced past Villanova because of their really great experience. Nigel Hayes, Ethan Happ, Bronson Koenig have all stepped up big this tournament, and they go against a Florida team that, although they lost Jonathan Igbuno in the center, their interior defense took a little bit of a hit, lowered their ceiling. They still had a dominating performance against Virginia in the second round, holding the Cavaliers to 39 points. However, in this matchup, I'm going to have to go with Wisconsin. I think the Badgers, the experience, but also Bronson King's late game shot making has been excellent so far this tournament. But then also the inside presence of Ethan Happ, I think he can have advantage against the weaker Florida interior defense and get the Badgers to the Elite Eight for the third time in the past 4 years. The second matchup then features Baylor taking on South Carolina. Jonathan Motley has two double-doubles in both NCAA tournament games for the Baylor Bears, and the Baylor defense, their zone can cause problems to any team that isn't prepared. One of the big things to watch for Baylor has been their bench. In their two games, Al Freeman had 21 points off the bench against New Mexico State, and then Terry Madsen had 19 points against USC. They're going against a South Carolina team that upset Duke in the second round. Sindarius Thornwell is the player to watch for the Gamecocks. Great all-around player, averaged 21 points per game on the year. And PJ Dozier, those two are two under-the-radar players across the country that have not gotten the attention that they deserve. One thing to watch, though, is Baylor's defense. You have to make threes against them. South Carolina was 242nd in the NCAAs in three-point percentage this year, and through the two NCAA tournament games, it's 32.6%. South Carolina's going to need to hit threes, but I kind of like Baylor in this game. I think that they can take advantage of the zone. South Carolina benefited from a Duke defense that was very loose and porous. I think Baylor is a much tougher defensive matchup and can get shots against South Carolina. So in the game then between Wisconsin and Baylor, I think the Badgers' experience pays off. I think that they can handle the Baylor zone a little bit better in South Carolina. Ethan Happ will have to stay in the game to stay out of foul trouble. But I think Wisconsin, who even though it's an 8 seed, is something as I alluded to in the blog post that this is attached to, seeding really does not matter as much once you get into March, especially for teams that are 11 and lower. So we saw with Wichita State, Wisconsin, Middle Tennessee. Those are all teams that are probably seeded very much lower than they should have been, and I think the Badgers have everything they need to make a run back to the Final Four. Then we head to the West region with Gonzaga facing off against West Virginia. A lot of people are still not on the Gonzaga train. Remember, we gotta remember that this is not your average mid-major team. Nigel Williams-Goss is an excellent point guard, and Primoz Karnowski and Zach Collins are one of the best 1-2 big men duos in the country. For West Virginia, they have 5 players that have between 13 and 8 points per game. Now, a key stat with their press: when West Virginia forces 15 or more turnovers, they are 21-3. Gonzaga on the year is averaging 13 turnovers per game, so that is a key factor watching. Nigel Williams-Goss's ball handling is going to be paramount to victory for Gonzaga. Another thing West Virginia needs is three-point shooting. They hit 10 threes against Notre Dame. A lot of those at clutch times in the second half. But I'm going to have to take Gonzaga in this game. I think Nigel Williams-Goss can handle that West Virginia pressure. But then Gonzaga's interior depth and size gives the Mountaineers a lot of problems. Second matchup then, the West region, we have the Xavier Musketeers, the 11 seed, making another run to the Sweet 16 as they face off against Arizona. This is a rematch from 2 years ago, and Sean Miller at Arizona was the former coach at Xavier. Xavier have two excellent scoring guards, J.P. McCura, and then Trayvon Blewett. Blewett is definitely one of the most microwave heat check players in the country. When he has things going, he is very, very tough to guard. Xavier also has some nice interior depth with Sean O'Mara's emergence in the last 5 games of 10 points and 4 rebounds per game being huge for Xavier inside. For Arizona, they did get past a very tough St. Mary's team in the second round. A lot of people could have seen problems there. Alonzo Trier and Lauri Markkanen are their 2 big guns. I think that Arizona is just too big and too athletic for Xavier, but it would not surprise me if Xavier's able to hang this game. They've had a great month of March. There was a great article on the Players Tribune by Trayvon Blue about just how they got through the rough stretch in February and finally getting the last name called on Selection Sunday. But at the end of the day, I think Arizona is just too good. So this would then put Mark Few and Sean Miller together in the Elite 8. Both these teams, both coaches, looking for their first Final Four. Now, these 2 teams did play each other on December 3rd, and it was a Gonzaga win, 62-69. However, there was no Alonzo Trier for Arizona, and Lauri Markkanen went 4 of 14 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, and the Wildcats only took 8 3-pointers, making 1. I think Arizona is much more prepared to face Gonzaga this time with Trier. I think Markkanen can have a big game. Although it would not surprise me if Gonzaga is advancing, but Arizona's been my title pick going forward, and I think that they have the depth and athletes to give Gonzaga problems and advance to the Final Four in Glendale. Now we head over to the Midwest region where we have a great matchup between Kansas and Purdue, and really the big matchup within the game is the Player of the Year battle between Caleb Swanigan and Frank Mason. Swanigan has had a great all-around season, and if I had to pick a Player of the Year, he's probably my pick as of today. But Mason, with a strong showing, could even overjump. It'll be interesting to see because this will be a huge game of mismatches. Landon Lucas for Kansas needs to avoid foul trouble. He is the main interior defender for the Jayhawks. And can Kansas's guards then, who are clearly better than Purdue's, Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, Josh Jackson, those perimeter players, very deadly when they're on, I think is a much bigger advantage for the Jayhawks than Purdue's size inside. From Oregon against Michigan, you have Oregon, who lost Chris Boucher to an ACL injury back in the Pac-12 tournament. Jordan Bell stepped over, but then you have 2 really solid players with Dylan Brooks and Tyler Dorsey. Brooks had a couple late winning threes in the end of the year, and Tyler Dorsey hit a huge 3 to give the Ducks the win over the Rhode Island Rams in the second round. For Michigan, they've been one of the hottest teams in the country behind the play of Derek Walton Jr. Moritz Wagner had a great game against Louisville. And Oregon, a team that doesn't have a lot of interior size, it's a team that Michigan can spread out and possibly hit threes. I'm going to go with Michigan, hot team lately. I think that there's always that one team that catches fire in March, and they are this year's team to watch with that run. So then in the Elite 8, we get Kansas versus Michigan. I think Kansas's guard play is too good for the Wolverines. Landon Lucas can hopefully avoid foul trouble against Wagner. But then the huge advantage is Kansas with the home court in Kansas City. It's playing at the Sprint Center once again. So Kansas will have a nice home field court advantage. And they were my pick to advance out of this region. Louisville is my pick, but Kansas win the Elite 8. But this Kansas team is trying to get back to the Final Four, and Bill Self, with only 1 title in his time at Kansas, is a great opportunity with the field opening up. The South region, this is probably the South, the most name brand of the 4 regions within basketball. This is almost a Final Four within itself. You have North Carolina taking on Butler. North Carolina had a scare against Arkansas, and being the lone ACC team left, they have a lot on their shoulders to live up to. I just think, though, that North Carolina's too athletic in this game. I don't know if Butler has an answer to Justin Jackson. The best chance for Butler in this game is for them to slow it down, control the tempo, limit missed shots, turnovers. Are going to have to play a very well-executed game. But they've shown this year being able to beat the big teams. 2 wins over Villanova, along with a win over Arizona at the start of the year, show that Butler has the skill and the players to knock off the big guns. But I just think UNC's athleticism is just too much for Butler. Then we get to, I think, the most intriguing matchup within the Sweet 16. You have UCLA taking on Kentucky. These two teams met back in December in one of the top 3 games of the season. UCLA defeated Kentucky 97-92 at Rupp Arena, a win that really put the nation on alert about how good the Bruins and Lonzo Ball are. UCLA had 6 players in double figures that game. Really, the big keys to this game is, can Kentucky play defense? In their first matchup, Kentucky gave up 92 points to the Bruins, but as we saw late against Wichita State, Kentucky made some key stops down the stretch to keep the Shockers away. If Kentucky can keep up that defensive play, they have a great chance against UCLA. Another key will be the Aaron Fox against Lonzo Ball matchup. Ball, we all know what he is. He's a once-in-a-generation talent with his vision, shooting, just the way he sees the court. Fox has played excellent as of late, a great change of pace, hitting three-pointers a little better. At the end of the day, I just like UCLA a little bit more. Kentucky has to play very good on defense, and I don't know if Kentucky has enough scoring to keep up with a UCLA team that Kentucky has to keep under 80 points, I think, this game to win. So now we get one of the best Elite 8 matchups possible in this year's field. You have North Carolina taking on UCLA, the great guard play and shooting of UCLA against the balanced, just pounding attack of UNC. I'm going to have to go with the North Carolina Tar Heels in this one. I like their inside presence. I think Justin Jackson can have a big breakout game. Joel Berry and Theo Pinson will be huge this game. Berry at the point. Pinson might get a matchup against Ball. And I just like UNC's overall depth, just ability to pound the basket, and they advance back to the Final Four. So now we have our Final Four matchups. We have Wisconsin, Arizona, Kansas, UNC. Arizona and UNC were the 2 teams I picked to meet in the national title game back at the start. I'm going to keep that prediction the same. I think Arizona is too athletic for Wisconsin. They can also attack at the inside. Ethan Happ will have his hands full guarding Lauri Markkanen. I just think that the Badgers guards are going to have trouble getting stops in front of the quick, athletic Alonzo Trier and Kobe Simmons. Now on the other side, then you have Kansas against North Carolina. Good matchup there. 2 teams that have matched up before in the Final Four. And while Kansas might have the guard advantage with Frank Mason and Devontae Graham, Josh Jackson, I think UNC's ability to pound the ball inside Isaiah Hicks, Candy Meeks, I think that gives Kansas trouble, as Landon Lucas will really have to be on top of his game in order to keep the paint secure for the Jayhawks. So that leads to a national title game. So title game I had at the start of the year between Arizona and North Carolina. I'm going to stick with the Arizona Wildcats as my pick, as I think that this is their year, having the Final Four in their home state. They'll have a great home court advantage. UNC will be the 2nd straight year that they've been runners-up. I just think that Arizona, I could see Alonzo Trier and Josh Jackson going against each other. Markkanen really impressed me these last few games against St. Mary's, and so I have Arizona winning. I'm going to keep I think it would be a high-scoring affair with both teams getting above 70 points. So Arizona was my pick at the start of the bracket to be a national title. They're my pick at the end of it. As we've seen before, lots can happen in between now and the championship game on April 3rd. But thank you to everybody that listened to this. Thank you for your support lately. Haven't gotten a lot out, just life can get busy, but thank you for everything, and hope your bracket's not busting. You can always go to ESPN's Tournament Second Chance Challenge if you want to fill out a Sweet 16 bracket. Thank you for your time, and hope you enjoy the games this week.